Friends, today I'm going to talk about the discovery of insulin, certain lesser known facts. It is said that the discovery of insulin is the story of famous, almost famous, and little known people of serendipities, discoveries, and rediscoveries. Let me introduce my topic. Neil Armstrong said, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." And the future is already here because from then on, we lived in a world where humans had set foot on the moon. The discovery of insulin is no less wondering and no less stunning than any other scientific discovery, but to some extent, it all began with an apology. And that's the second part of my presentation, which is called Apology for an Island. And I'm talking about those little islands found in the pancreas gland within our abdomen. And those little islands in the gland called the pancreas produce insulin. And the discovery of that island was made by Paul Langerhans. In February 1869, Paul Langerhans presented a thesis called The Contributions to the Microscopic Anatomy of the Pancreas. He referred to certain islands of very clear cells across the gland, and these islands stained differently from the surrounding tissues. He also noticed that these islands were richly innervated, but he could not suggest a function. And therefore, friends, because he could not suggest a function, probably he had to apologize for the discovery of these little islands. Paul Langerhans, he apologized to his examiners for the lack of novelty in the thesis which contained the first description of pancreatic islands. These pancreatic islets were named for Langerhans in 1893 by a Frenchman called Leguesse in a paper in which he speculated that this group of cells was responsible for an internal secretion of the pancreas. So friends, sometimes scientists have to apologize for findings which they cannot explain because that may not be accepted. And some of these findings in future might yet change the nature of science. So moving on from the apology for an island to the $1 smile. Today it is well known that there are 4 wonderful scientists who discovered insulin or helped to discover insulin. They were Banting, Best, MacLeod, and Collip. On January 23rd, 1923, Banting, Best, and Collip were awarded the American patents for insulin, which they sold to the University of Toronto for $1 each. Today, when scientists and the industry patents every molecule and converts those patents many times into products worth billions of dollars, here is a momentous act of generosity by the scientists who discovered insulin. They gave away the patent for $1 to the university, and that $1 was a $1 billion smile for millions of children with millions of people with diabetes, including children with type 1 diabetes. Insulin proved to be a lifesaver. So that was an act of great generosity where scientists gave away their patent for the betterment of humanity and science. So from the $1 smile, let me move to what could have been. It was in 1905 that the French physiologist and endocrinologist Eugene Glay, he deposited a sealed envelope to the Society of Biology in Paris, which contained a document titled On the Internal Secretion of the Pancreas and its Therapeutic Use. He described experiments he performed on pancreatectomized dogs, and he hypothesized that the islets of Langerhans would produce a substance that could lower the excretion of glucose through urine. In fact, it is said that he first developed an aqueous pancreatic extract which, when given to diabetic pancreatectomized dogs, reduced glycosuria and improved diabetes symptoms. So friends, the discovery of the pancreatic extract, probably containing insulin, had been made prior to the conventional descriptions of insulin discovery in 1921. But it was not until 1922, after Banting and Best had published their discoveries, that the envelope, the famous envelope, was opened and read out, and it showed that the insulin discovery could have been made much earlier. The pancreatic extract discovery had been made earlier. So from today's perspective, this seems to be very strange, because people today like to publish their results immediately. But Glei's secretive approach seems strange and incomprehensible. But apparently this was not totally unusual at that time. If the author or researcher is not able to continue or complete the research for some reason, and this is seen even today when scientists with interesting discoveries are forced to abandon their work because of some reason, because not able to complete their work, or not able to pursue that line of thinking or science for some matter, maybe even due to the lack of funding. This could happen even today. From there, I now move to the fourth topic, which is the Nobel connection. And here I'm not only talking about the Nobel Prize, Nobel, but I'm also going to talk about Noble. And this is the story of E. Clark Noble, Noble, the common thread in the discovery of insulin and vinblastine. Clark Noble was one of the first members of the University of Toronto insulin team. Well, though this is contested, it is said that a coin was tossed to decide whether Charles Best or Clark Noble would join Frederick Banting in his quest for discovering insulin. It is said that Charles Best won the toss and joined Banting, and Banting and Best's discovery of insulin is now the stuff of legends. This coin toss theory has been contested. Nevertheless, it is well known that Clark Noble may have come within a whisker of being on the team to have developed insulin. In fact, even today it is well known that Noble performed important studies helping to characterize insulin's action, and he also co-authored many of the original papers describing insulin. But mass production of insulin had been a problem, and Clark Noble got a second chance when Dr. MacLeod, who was in charge of the insulin discovery lab, hired Noble during the summer of 1923 to develop insulin as a large-scale production capability. But this commercial production of insulin from fish, which was attempted, became impractical and was dropped. And again, Clark Noble lost his opportunity. But it is important to note that Noble later played a small but critical role in another most important Canadian contribution to cancer chemotherapy research. He helped discover Vinca alkaloids, which was discovered by his brother Robert Lang Noble. Yet, E. Clark Noble had several opportunities, but unfortunately, though he deserved fame, he could not become famous. But still, it doesn't matter, because even today, he helped to contribute to two very important Canadian discoveries, that of insulin and Vinca alkaloids. And even if his name is not there, the very fact that he helped the progress of science is something remarkable. So there's another Nobel connection for insulin. So we finished the story of Clark Noble, Noble, but several Nobel Prizes have been awarded for work relating to insulin. We already talked about the discovery of insulin by Banting, MacLeod, Best, and Collip. But insulin sequencing by Sanger, the structure of insulin by Hodgkin, the mechanism of insulin action was part of the discovery of Dewey. The physiology of pancreas was discovered by Pavlov, all won Nobel Prizes. But measuring insulin by Rosalind Yallow and Samuel Berson was another very critical moment, which I'll spend a moment on, because Rosalind Yallow and Samuel Berson were awarded the Nobel Prize for developing the radioimmunoassay to detect and measure hormones, and the first hormone they measured was insulin. I indeed wrote about Rosalind Yalow in an editorial in 2011 because the year 1921 was an important year for insulin discovery, because a team of scientists led by Banting and Best discovered the hormone that we call insulin. But in 1921, there was another important insulin-related event. That was the birth of a little girl in New York City, born to European migrants, Clara Zipper and Simon Sisman, who went on to become Professor Rosalind Yalow, who along with Samuel Berson found a way to do radioimmunoassay of hormones, and the first hormone they measured was insulin. This led, the way to measure insulin was important because that helped us to understand insulin production, insulin resistance, and also that helped us to understand how other hormones could be measured. So Dr. Yalow interestingly discovered how to measure insulin, and insulin was a hormone that was discovered during the year of her birth. And Dr. Yalow also helped scientists across the country, and one of the scientists she helped was Professor Kuchupillai from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Delhi. She authored a paper with him about the measurement of thyroid hormone, and today measurements of hormones is easier thanks to another wondrous and stunning contributions to science by Rosalind Yalow and Samuel Berson, who also helped scientists across the world to pursue measurement of hormones, and that compounded their success by manyfold. So friends, the story of insulin is a story of famous, almost famous and little known people, of serendipities, discoveries and rediscoveries, and there are little treasures and nuggets of information in the discovery of insulin that continue to enthrall and inspire all of us. It's a pleasure talking about this topic with you. Thank you so much for listening to me.